The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Stars twinkled like distant diamonds, their light traveling for centuries before reaching this remote corner of the galaxy. It was here, in this quiet expanse, that the Zarkonian exploration fleet made an unexpected discovery. Captain Zelthor stood on the bridge of his sleek, advanced starship, his 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession as he processed the information on the holographic display before him. His antennae twitched with excitement, a rare emotion for the usually stoic Zarkonian. "Sensor Officer Vexna, report," he commanded, his voice a low rumble that echoed through the bridge. Vexna, a younger Zarkonian with bright blue skin, turned from her console. "Captain, we've detected a large metallic object approximately 500,000 kilometers from our current position. Initial scans suggest it's artificial in nature." Zelthor's interest peaked. In his 200 years of space exploration, he had never encountered an unknown ship in such a remote location. "On screen," he ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a massive, dark shape against the backdrop of stars. As the ship's powerful sensors focused on the object, its details became clearer. It was indeed a ship, but unlike anything the Zarkonians had ever seen. The vessel was enormous, easily dwarfing Zelthor's flagship. Its hull was pockmarked with small craters and scorch marks, evidence of ancient battles fought long ago. Strange symbols adorned its side, faded but still visible after untold years adrift in space. "Magnify," Zelthor commanded, his curiosity growing with each passing moment. The image zoomed in, revealing more details of the mysterious ship. Its design was boxy and inelegant by Zarkonian standards. Large, cylindrical structures protruded from its rear, presumably some form of primitive propulsion system. The front of the ship bristled with what appeared to be weapon emplacements, their purpose clear even to alien eyes. "Fascinating," Zelthor muttered. "Any signs of life or active systems?" Vexna shook her head. "Negative, Captain. The ship appears to be completely dormant. No energy signatures detected." Zelthor stroked his chin thoughtfully. "A derelict, then. But from where? And how long has it been adrift?" As if in answer to his questions, another officer spoke up. "Captain, I've run the ship's design through our database. It matches no known species in our records, but—" The officer paused, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Go on," Zelthor urged. "Sir, the symbols on the hull. They match an ancient language in our linguistic archives. It's human." A hush fell over the bridge. Humans were little more than a legend in the galaxy, a species that had vanished millennia ago. Some doubted they had ever existed at all. Zelthor's eyes widened. "Humans? Are you certain?" The officer nodded. "As certain as I can be, sir. The language match is unmistakable." Excitement rippled through the crew. They had stumbled upon a genuine artifact from one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries. "Alert the Science Ministry immediately," Zelthor ordered, "and prepare a boarding party. I want to see this human ship with my own eyes." Hours later, Zelthor floated through the cavernous interior of the human vessel, his environmental suit allowing him to navigate the zero-gravity environment with ease. The boarding party's lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors and rooms that had not seen illumination in thousands of years. "Primitive," sneered Dr. Zalrix, the chief xenoarchaeologist assigned to the mission. "Look at these crude control interfaces. Physical buttons and levers. How did they ever manage interstellar travel with such backward technology?" Zelthor had to agree. Compared to the sleek, thought-controlled systems of Zarkonian ships, the human vessel seemed like a relic from a long-forgotten past. They made their way to what appeared to be the ship's bridge. Massive view screens, now dark and lifeless, lined the walls. Rows of control stations sat silently, covered in a thick layer of dust. "It's a wonder this ship functioned at all," Dr. Zalrix continued, his voice dripping with disdain. "These humans must have been truly desperate to venture into space in such a contraption." As the scientist spoke, Zelthor's gaze fell upon a faded insignia on the central command chair. It depicted a strange blue and green sphere, presumably the human homeworld surrounded by stars. Below it, barely legible, were words in the human language, United Earth Defense Force, humanity's last hope. Something about those words stirred an unexpected emotion in Zelthor. Despite the apparent crudeness of the ship, he sensed a gravity to its purpose that his colleague seemed to miss. "Do not be too quick to judge, Dr. Zalrix," Zelthor cautioned. "We know so little about the humans. This ship may yet hold secrets we cannot fathom," the xenoarchaeologist scoffed. "Secrets? In this floating museum piece? I doubt it, Captain. This ship is nothing more than a quaint reminder of how far superior our technology is. The humans, if they truly built this, were clearly no match for the challenges of deep space." As if to punctuate his point, Dr. Zalrix casually leaned against a nearby console. To everyone's surprise, the ancient machine emitted a low hum. Lights flickered weakly to life across the bridge, and a holographic display sputtered into existence above the central command station. The Zarkonians froze, watching in amazement as lines of alien code scrolled across the display. The ship, dormant for millennia, was awakening. "Impossible," Dr. Zalrix whispered, his earlier bravado evaporating. "How can it still have power after all this time?" Zelthor felt a mix of awe and trepidation. "It seems, Doctor, that we may have underestimated these humans and their technology." The holographic display stabilized, revealing a rotating image of the ship itself. Strange symbols, human numbers, Zelthor realized, appeared next to various sections of the vessel. Though he couldn't read them, the captain sensed they represented some kind of diagnostic information. "We should leave," Dr. Zalrix said, a tremor in his voice. "We don't know what this system might do. It could be dangerous," but Zelthor was transfixed. As he watched, the hologram zoomed in on a specific section of the ship. New data appeared, along with an image that made the captain's blood run cold. It was a weapon. A weapon of terrifying proportions, far beyond anything in the Zarkonian arsenal. And if the flashing indicators were any indication, it was powering up. "By the ancestors," Zelthor breathed. "What have we awakened?" The human ship, once mocked as a relic, was roaring to life. And the galaxy, Zelthor realized, was utterly unprepared for what was to come. Alarms blared throughout the Zarkonian ship, their shrill cry echoing through every corridor. On the bridge, chaos reigned as officers scrambled to make sense of the rapidly changing situation. Captain Zelthor burst onto the scene, his usually immaculate uniform disheveled from his hasty return. "Report!" he barked, his 4 eyes scanning the panicked faces of his crew. Officer Vexna turned from her console, her blue skin pale with worry. "Captain, the human ship, it's powering up. We're detecting massive energy surges throughout its systems." Zelthor's antennae twitched nervously. "How is this possible? That ship has been dormant for millennia." Dr. Zalrix, the xenoarchaeologist who had accompanied Zelthor on the initial exploration, spoke up. His earlier arrogance had vanished, replaced by a mix of fear and excitement. It must have had some kind of automated reactivation protocol. Our presence, or perhaps our scans, might have triggered it. The main view screen showed the massive human warship. What had once been a dark, lifeless hulk was now coming alive. Lights flickered on across its surface, and the strange, cylindrical structures at its rear began to glow with an otherworldly energy. "Are those engines?" Zelthor asked, disbelief evident in his voice. Dr. Zalrix nodded. "It appears so. But the energy readings, they're off the charts. Nothing in our database even comes close to this level of power output." As they watched, mesmerized, the human ship slowly began to move. Its movements were sluggish at first, like a giant awakening from a long slumber. But with each passing moment, it seemed to shake off more of its ancient torpor. "Captain!" Vexna called out, her voice tight with tension. "The human ship is transmitting a signal. It's trying to communicate." Zelthor straightened his uniform, trying to project a calm he didn't feel. "Put it through," he ordered. The view screen flickered, and suddenly they were face to face with something. It wasn't human, at least not in any way they had expected. Instead, a shimmering, translucent face appeared, its features constantly shifting and reforming. When it spoke, its voice was a strange mix of mechanical precision and organic warmth. Greetings, unknown vessels. I am Aria, Artificial Reconnaissance and Intelligence Assistant of the United Earth Defense Force Starship Horizon's Dawn. State your intentions. A stunned silence fell over the Zarkonian bridge. An artificial intelligence? The concept wasn't unknown to them, but nothing in their civilization came close to this level of sophistication. Zelthor stepped forward, drawing on all his diplomatic training. Greetings, Aria. I am Captain Zelthor of the Zarkonian Exploration Fleet. We mean you no harm. We discovered your ship adrift, and we're merely investigating. Aria's face shifted. Lines of code briefly visible beneath its surface. Scanning. Species identified Zarkonian. No match found in threat database. Current galactic date. The AI paused, its expression changing to one of surprise if an AI could be said to show surprise. Error. Date discrepancy detected. Requesting confirmation of current star date. Zelthor exchanged a glance with Dr. Zalrix before responding. By our calendar, the current star date is 4-329.6. Aria was silent for a long moment, its face a whirl of calculations. When it spoke again, there was a note of what could almost be described as awe in its voice. Confirmed. This unit has been in dormant status for approximately 15,000 standard Earth years. The revelation sent shock waves through the Zarkonian crew. 15,000 years! The human ship was far older than their entire civilization. Aria, Zelthor said carefully. The human species. They are no longer present in the galaxy. At least, not to our knowledge. The AI's face showed no emotion at this news, but its voice seemed to carry a hint of sadness. Understood. Activating secondary protocols. Mission parameters updating. Suddenly, the human ship's engines flared to life with blinding intensity. The Zarkonian sensors screamed warnings as energy readings spiked to unprecedented levels. What's happening? Zelthor demanded, struggling to be heard over the ship's alarms. Aria's face filled the screen once more. Captain Zelthor, I must inform you that the Horizon's Dawn is now entering active defense mode. My primary directives require me to secure this sector of space and assess the current galactic situation. Dr. Zalrix pushed forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. But why? What threat could possibly still exist after so much time? Aria's expression became grave. The threat that necessitated the creation of the Horizon's Dawn was one that operated on a cosmic scale. 15,000 years is but a blink of an eye in comparison. I must verify that the danger has truly passed. As the AI spoke, the massive human warship began to move with purpose. Weapon systems that had lain dormant for millennia hummed to life, their power dwarfing anything in the Zarkonian arsenal. Zelthor realized with growing dread that they had awakened something far beyond their understanding. This ship, this relic they had so casually dismissed, was in fact a sleeping giant of unimaginable power. Aria, he said, fighting to keep his voice steady, we pose no threat to you. Perhaps we can assist you in your mission? Our civilization has extensive knowledge of the current state of the galaxy. The AI seemed to consider this for a moment. Your offer is appreciated, Captain Zelthor. However, I must first complete my initial assessments. I assure you, no harm will come to your vessels if you do not interfere. With that, the communication cut off. The Zarkonians watched in awe as the Horizon's Dawn accelerated away from them, its speed defying their understanding of physics. As the human ship disappeared into the depths of space, Zelthor turned to his stunned crew. Send word to the Zarkonian High Command immediately, he ordered. Tell them the galaxy as we know it may be about to change. Dr. Zalrix, his earlier mockery of human technology forgotten, summed up the situation in a whisper. We thought we were studying history, but we may have just set it in motion. The giant was awake, and the consequences of its awakening were yet to be seen. As the Zarkonian ship hung in space, its crew could only wonder, what other secrets and powers did the long-lost humans leave behind? And more importantly, what threat was so great that it required such a formidable guardian? The answers, they feared, would shake the very foundations of their understanding of the universe. The Zarkonian High Command Chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Leaders from across their vast empire had gathered to discuss the awakening of the human warship, an event that had sent shockwaves through their civilization. Captain Zelthor stood before the council, his antennae twitching with nervous energy as he recounted his encounter with the Horizon's Dawn and its AI, Area. And then it just left? High Commander Zexara asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Zelthor nodded. Yes, High Commander. The ship's speed was beyond anything we've ever seen. Our long-range sensors lost track of it within minutes. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Zexara raised a hand, silencing the crowd. What do we know about these? Humans? And what threat could be so great that their ship still stands guard after 15,000 years? Dr. Zalrix stepped forward, clearing his throat. High Commander, if I may? In the days since our encounter, I've been researching our oldest archives. The humans were remarkable. With a wave of his hand, he activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images flickered to life strange bipedal creatures with varying skin tones and hair colors. Humans were a species of great contradiction, Zalrix explained. Physically unimpressive by our standards, yet they achieved technological marvels that, in some areas, still surpass our own. The hologram shifted, showing human cities, spacecraft, and machines. The Zarkonians watched in awe as they saw the incredible diversity and ingenuity of human creations. But more than their technology, Zalrix continued, it was their spirit that set them apart. Humans were capable of both great compassion and terrible violence. They were explorers, dreamers, and warriors. The images changed again, this time showing humans in various acts of kindness, bravery, and sacrifice. Our oldest records speak of a time when the humans stood as guardians of the galaxy, Zalrix said, his voice filled with wonder. They fought against a threat so great that it united hundreds of species under a single banner. Zelthor felt a chill run down his spine. What was this threat, Doctor? Zalrix's expression grew grave. We don't know. Our records from that time are fragmented. But whatever it was enough to make the humans create ships like the Horizon's Dawn vessels of unimaginable power, designed to stand guard long after their creators were gone. The hologram flickered one last time, showing an image that made every Zarkonian in the room gasp. It was a massive space battle, thousands of ships locked in combat against a dark, formless enemy that seemed to swallow light itself. This, Zalrix said softly, is the last known image we have of the humans. They stood against the darkness, buying time for younger races to flee, to survive, to evolve. And then, they were gone. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The Zarkonians, who had initially dismissed the human ship as a relic, now found themselves grappling with the legacy of a species that had sacrificed everything to save the galaxy. High Commander Zexara was the first to speak. If this threat was real, and if it could return, we must find the Horizon's Dawn. We must learn more. Zelthor stepped forward. High Commander, with your permission, I'd like to lead that mission. My crew and I have already had contact with Area. We might be able to establish trust. Zexara nodded. Granted. Take our fastest ship and a team of our best scientists. Find that human vessel and learn everything you can. As the meeting adjourned, Zelthor and Zalrix walked together through the halls of the High Command Center. Do you think we'll find them? Zalrix asked, his earlier scientific detachment replaced by open curiosity. Zelthor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his people. I hope so, Doctor. But more than that, I hope we're ready for what we might learn. 3 days later, Zelthor stood on the bridge of the Star Seeker, the fastest ship in the Zarkonian fleet. As they prepared to depart on their mission to find the Horizon's Dawn, he couldn't shake a feeling of both excitement and dread. Captain, his navigation officer called out, we're picking up an unusual energy signature. It matches the human ship. Zelthor's antennae stood straight up in surprise. On screen! The view screen flickered to life, showing a distant star system. And there, orbiting a gas giant, was the unmistakable form of the horizon's dawn. "It's not trying to hide," Zalrix observed, his voice filled with wonder. "It's almost as if it's waiting for us," Zelthor finished. As they approached, the massive human warship dwarfed their vessel. Up close, they could see the scars of ancient battles etched into its hull, testament to the conflicts it had endured. Suddenly, their communication system crackled to life. Aria's familiar shifting face appeared on the screen. "Greetings, Captain Zelthor," the AI said, its voice calm and measured. "I've been expecting you." Zelthor straightened, trying to project confidence. "Aria, we've come seeking knowledge about your creators, about your mission, and about the threat you were built to face." Aria was silent for a moment, its face a swirl of calculations. Then, to everyone's surprise, it smiled a very human expression on its artificial face. "Your curiosity honors the memory of my creators, Captain," Aria said. "The humans valued the pursuit of knowledge above all else. They would be pleased to know their legacy lives on in species like yours." The AI paused, and when it spoke again, there was a warmth in its voice that hadn't been there before. "I will share with you the story of humanity's last stand, of their sacrifice, and of the threat that still looms at the edges of the galaxy. But I must warn you, this knowledge comes with a price. Once you know what I know, you can never unknow it, and you may find yourself called to action, just as the humans were." Zelthor looked around at his crew, saw the mixture of fear and determination on their faces. He thought of his people, of all the species in the galaxy living in peace, unaware of the sacrifice that had bought that peace. He turned back to Aria, his decision made. "We're ready, Aria. Tell us everything." As Aria began its tale, Zelthor felt a shiver run down his spine. He realized that this moment marked the beginning of a new era for his people, and perhaps for the entire galaxy. The human legacy was about to be revealed, and with it, the true nature of the cosmos they inhabited. The story of humanity's last stand was about to unfold, and the Zarkonians would be the first in 15,000 years to hear it. Little did they know how this knowledge would change them, and how it would prepare them for the challenges that lay ahead. The Zarkonian fleet hung in space, a collection of sleek vessels that represented the pinnacle of their civilization's technology. At the center of their formation floated the horizon's dawn, its massive bulk dwarfing even the largest Zarkonian ships. Captain Zelthor stood on the bridge of his ship, his 4 eyes fixed on the main view screen. The screen showed a swirling mass of darkness at the edge of the galaxy, a sight that filled him with dread. "It's just as Aria described," Dr. Zalrix whispered, his usual scientific detachment replaced by awe and fear. "The Void Consumers. They're real." Zelthor nodded grimly. In the months since their encounter with Aria, the AI had shared the full history of humanity's last stand. The Void Consumers were an ancient race that fed on the very fabric of space-time, leaving nothing but emptiness in their wake. Humanity had sacrificed everything to drive them back, but now, 15,000 years later, they were returning. "All ships, report status," Zelthor commanded, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. One by one, the captains of the Zarkonian fleet checked in. They were as ready as they could be, but Zelthor knew their chances were slim. Their weapons, impressive as they were, seemed pitiful against the cosmic horror they faced. Suddenly, Aria's face appeared on the view screen. "Captain Zelthor, I've completed my analysis. The Void Consumers have grown stronger during their long exile. I estimate the Zarkonian fleet has a 0.02% chance of survival if we engage in direct combat." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Zelthor's antennae drooped, a sign of deep distress among his people. "Then, we've come all this way for nothing? We're doomed to fail just as the humans did?" Aria's expression shifted, lines of code swirling beneath its surface. "Not necessarily, Captain. The humans didn't fail. They bought time for the galaxy to evolve, for new allies to emerge. You are the fruit of their sacrifice." The AI paused, its face taking on a determined look. "And now it's time for the Horizon's Dawn to fulfill its true purpose." Before Zelthor could ask what Aria meant, alarms blared across the Zarkonian fleet. The horizon's dawn was powering up, energy readings spiking to levels that defied comprehension. "Area, what are you doing?" Zelthor demanded. "Initiating the Starburst Protocol," Area replied calmly. "Captain, I need you and your fleet to fall back to a safe distance. What comes next may be intense." As the Zarkonian ships retreated, the horizon's dawn began to change. Massive panels on its hull slid open, revealing intricate machinery that glowed with otherworldly energy. The ship's engines flared to life, pushing it towards the encroaching darkness of the void consumers. "The Starburst Protocol," Dr. Zalrix breathed, his eyes wide with realization. "It's not just a weapon. It's a sacrifice," Zelthor finished, understanding dawning on him. "Just like the humans who built it." On the view screen, they watched as the horizon's dawn plunged into the swirling mass of the void consumers. For a moment, it seemed as if the ancient ship would be swallowed up, lost forever in the cosmic darkness. Then, there was light. It started as a pinprick, a tiny spark at the heart of the void. But it grew, rapidly expanding outward in a dazzling display of energy. The light pushed back the darkness, burning away the void consumers with an intensity that rivaled the birth of stars. On the bridge of his ship, Zelthor shielded his eyes, overwhelmed by the spectacle. When he looked again, he gasped in awe. Where the void consumers had been, there was now a nascent nebula, swirling with colors and newborn stars. Of the horizon's dawn, there was no sign. "Arya?" Zelthor called out, a lump in his throat. "Arya, are you there?" For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, faintly, Arya's voice came through the speakers. "I am here, Captain, but I am changed." A hologram flickered to life on the bridge. It showed Arya, but not as they had known her. The AI's form was now intertwined with the newborn nebula, lines of code mixing with stellar dust and newborn stars. "The Starburst Protocol," Arya explained, her voice echoing with new power, was humanity's final gift to the galaxy, a way to turn destruction into creation, to seed new life in the face of oblivion. Zelthor struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. "But the void consumers? Are they gone?" Arya's new form pulsed gently. "Not gone, but driven back. This new nebula will act as a barrier, keeping them at bay for thousands of years to come. And I will stand guard, nurturing new life and watching for their return." Dr. Zalrix stepped forward, his voice filled with wonder. "You've become a guardian of creation itself, the humans. They planned this all along." "They hoped," Arya corrected gently. "They hoped that life would find a way, that new civilizations would rise to face the darkness. And you have, Captain Zelthor. You and your people." Zelthor felt a swell of emotion. The relic they had once mocked had become the savior of the galaxy. And with it, the true legacy of humanity had been revealed. "What now?" he asked, looking out at the beautiful nebula that had replaced the cosmic horror they had faced. Arya's form swirled, stars dancing in her ethereal body. "Now you live, you grow, you prepare. The void consumers will return one day, and when they do, the galaxy will need new heroes to stand against them." As the Zarkonian fleet began their journey home, Zelthor couldn't help but feel a mix of humility and determination. They had witnessed the end of one era and the birth of another. The human legacy lived on, not just in the horizon's dawn, but in every species that would rise to defend the galaxy. The relic had become a savior, and in doing so, had passed the torch of guardianship to a new generation. As Zelthor looked out at the stars, he silently vowed that they would not let that legacy down. The Zarkonians, and all the races of the galaxy, would be ready when darkness threatened again. For now, though, they had a story to tell, a story of sacrifice, of hope, and of a ship called Horizon's Dawn that had turned destruction into the dawn of a new era. 1,000 years had passed since the day the Horizon's Dawn had transformed into a guardian nebula. The galaxy had changed, grown, and flourished in ways that would have been unimaginable to the Zarkonians who first discovered the ancient human ship. On a small blue-green planet at the edge of the nebula, A gathering unlike any other was taking place. Representatives from hundreds of species had come together for the millennial celebration of what had become known as the Dawn Sacrifice. Zexalara, a descendant of Captain Zelthor, stood at the podium, her 4 eyes scanning the diverse crowd before her. Bipeds, quadrupeds, energy beings, and even silicon-based life forms, all united in their reverence for the human legacy. 1,000 years ago, Zexalara began, her voice carried across the gathering by advanced translation devices. Our ancestors witnessed an act of sacrifice that changed the course of galactic history. Today, we honor not just that moment, but the spirit that made it possible, the human spirit. As she spoke, a holographic display sprang to life behind her, showing images from the ancient records. The crowd watched in awe as the story of the Horizon's dawn unfolded once again. The humans, Zexalara continued, were not the strongest, fastest, or longest-lived species, but they possessed something rare and precious, an indomitable will, a courage that burned brighter than stars. The hologram shifted, showing scenes pieced together from Aria's memories, humans laughing, crying, fighting, and most importantly, persevering against impossible odds. When the Void consumers first threatened our galaxy, it was humanity who stood against the darkness. They were not alone, many species fought alongside them, but it was the humans who made the ultimate sacrifice. The image changed to show the final battle, a recreation based on Aria's records. Thousands of human ships, alongside their allies, facing an endless tide of cosmic darkness. They knew they could not win, Zexalara said, her voice soft with reverence. But they fought anyway, not for victory but for time. Time for younger races to grow, to learn, to prepare for the day when the darkness would return. In the crowd, an elderly Zarkonian nodded solemnly. He was one of the few left who had been there when the Horizon's dawn activated the Starburst protocol. His grandchildren, seated next to him, listened with wide eyes, hearing the story they knew so well given new life. Zexalara's voice grew stronger. The Horizon's dawn was more than just a ship. It was the embodiment of humanity's hope, their defiance against fate. When it transformed, seeding new stars and creating a barrier against the void, it was the culmination of thousands of years of human planning and sacrifice. The hologram now showed the beautiful nebula that had once been the Horizon's dawn, its swirling colors a constant reminder of the price paid for the galaxy's safety. But the humans gave us more than just a shield, Zexalara continued. They gave us a legacy, a call to be more than we were. To reach for the stars not just with our hands but with our hearts. She paused, looking out at the assembled beings. In the 1,000 years since the dawn sacrifice, we have honored that legacy. We have explored, we have learned, we have grown, and most importantly, we have united. The hologram changed once more, showing scenes from the past 1,000 years. Species that were once enemies, now working together. Technological advancements that bridged the gap between organic and artificial life. Feats of engineering and artistry that would have amazed even the humans of old. The Galactic Concordat, Zexalara said, referring to the alliance that had formed in the wake of the dawn sacrifice, is a testament to what we can achieve when we embrace the human spirit. We have taken their gift and built upon it, creating a civilization that spans the stars. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Many of them wore badges indicating their membership in the Concordat's various branches: exploration, science, diplomacy, and defense. But we must not forget, Zexalara's tone grew serious, that our peace comes with a price. The Void consumers are not gone, merely held at bay. One day, they will return. The crowd grew silent, the weight of this knowledge settling over them. It was a truth every child in the galaxy learned, that the darkness was always waiting, always hungry. Yet we do not face this future with fear, Zexalara declared, her voice ringing with conviction. We face it with determination, with unity, and with the unbreakable spirit we inherited from humanity. She raised her hand, and the hologram changed one last time. It showed the symbol of the Galactic Concordat, a stylized image of the horizon's dawn, surrounded by stars representing every member species. "Look around you," Zexalara said. "See the diversity, the strength, the potential we represent. We are the children of 100,000 worlds, but we are united by a single legacy. The human spirit lives on in each of us, driving us to be better, to reach further, to stand against the darkness, no matter the cost." As she spoke, a soft glow began to emanate from the nebula visible in the sky above. It was Aria, acknowledging the ceremony in her own way. The AI had become a revered figure, a living link to the human past and a guardian of the galactic future. 1,000 years ago, humanity triumphed not by winning a war, but by ensuring that life would have a fighting chance. Today, we honor their sacrifice by carrying their spirit forward. We are their legacy, their triumph, their eternal flame burning bright against the night. Zexalara raised her hands, and as one, the assembled beings rose to their feet. "To humanity," she called out, "and to the spirit that unites us all, to humanity!" The response echoed across the planet, carried by countless voices in 100 different languages. As the cheers faded, Zexalara looked up at the nebula shimmering in the sky. She thought of her ancestor, Captain Zelthor, and the journey that had brought them all to this moment. The relic that had become a savior, the sacrifice that had become a triumph. The human spirit had not just survived, it had flourished, spreading across the galaxy like starlight. And as long as that spirit lived on, there was hope. Hope for the future. Hope against the darkness. Hope that no matter what challenges lay ahead, life would find a way. In that moment, under the light of 1,000 suns born from human sacrifice, the triumph of the human spirit was complete. Not in conquest or domination, but in the unity and determination of a galaxy forever changed by their legacy.